Welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson. You know what? This looks real dark. Let me turn a real light on so you guys can see me. Battery's dead. We're not going to worry about it. Oh, this is a great live stream. You can tell that it's live. All right, guys. So today happens to be my 39th birthday. I know, I'm getting old. It's crazy. But 39 years old, I was born March 18th, 1982. And hello to everybody in chat. Thank you so much for the birthday wishes. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm feeling old. I'm 39. So I thought, you know what? Today, let's go back and let's talk about some of that old school aquarium gear that maybe we've forgotten about and shouldn't have. So first one I want to get into are Downdraft Skimmers. And if you guys have something, put it in the chat. This is kind of what I like to do. Hang out, talk reefing. So if you got a product you want to talk about, put it in the chat and we'll discuss it. But the very first one I want to bring up are Downdraft Skimmers. So this is like those old school aqua sea skimmers. Basically, it's water that flows in. It's a straight injection. And then that injection is like holding your finger over the end of a hose. It sprays really fast and hard. And that's what creates the foam. The only moving parts is the pump itself. And it's actually worked great. This is a product that was popular 10, 15 years ago. And it's kind of faded. So the reason is the needle wheel styles are so much more efficient for a lot of what we do in the reef aquarium hobby. They're pretty cheap to build, but you know, they're power efficient. But honestly, in my opinion, they're the most expensive skimmers people run because they just don't last. The pumps are different for every single skimmer out there. So they all have their own special needle wheel pump. You can't really swap them out for any of that kind of stuff. And the longevity of them is just not as good. The tuning's not as good. I run a big Aquasea EV 1000 for my big 210-gallon reef. The reason I do it, it's bulletproof. It's bulletproof like a wood stove. I run one pump to run the main display upstairs, the frag tanks, and the protein skimmer. So one pump does all of that. So it's super easy. I've got no pump to ever go bad on me. It's the same pump that runs this entire system. In my opinion, it's the way to go. So efficiency is an interesting thing from a power standpoint. It seems like these are pretty inefficient because they take big pumps to create that jet of water that sprays it in there. The cool thing, though, is because you're running these big pumps, you're pumping a lot of water volume through there. So lots and lots of water goes through there. So instead of maybe turning your water flow of your entire tank through your skimmer once every few hours with a needle wheel skimmer, a big injection style skimmer, you can run your total water volume through it multiple times an hour. So if you actually want to get the stuff out, you got to get into the skimmer, right? So it makes sense. The more you run it through, the better it would be. So old school downdraft skimmers make so much sense for so many reasons. So if you got a weird sump design, they're perfect, right? Because you don't have to mount them at any sort of water level. As long as the water can come out of the skimmer, you're in. You could mount it on a shelf. You can mount it externally. You can mount it in the water. You can mount it up. It really doesn't matter. All you got to be able to do is get the water back into the tank. So that's a huge bonus, right? So many of us are trying to dial our skimmers in by raising and lowering water levels or putting something underneath the skimmer to raise it up or something like that. Not a problem with injection style skimmers. There's so much good about these. What really sucks, in my opinion, about injection style skimmers is nobody's making them anymore. Well, almost nobody. Aquasea keeps claiming they're coming back. I'll believe it when I see it. There's a couple little tiny companies making some stuff, but that's about it. You're pretty much relegated to the used market these days. But these are, in my opinion, the best skimmers on the market. So, injection style skimmers. I love them, and that's what I personally run. And I've used needle wheels. I'm just not into them like I am the injection. The injection is where it's at. So, let's check out the comments. Thank everybody again for the birthday wishes. Yeah, this is what I like to do for my birthday. Hang out with you guys, playing with fish tanks. It's been great. I think you guys probably saw my last update where I got myself a bunch of coral. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun lately. We had a lot of cool stuff coming. All right, I'm about to buy a denitrate reactor using sulfur. I think it's old school way. That is way old school. I don't know anybody who's running that 420 reefer, so I would love to know your results when you do that, because that's super old school. Yeah, so I'm not even familiar with how these work. I've vaguely seen them. I know we're running water, and then we got a sulfur media, but I haven't even used one. I haven't looked into them. That's crazy cool. I'm interested to know what your results are. So let's talk about water movement next. So these days we have DC pumps. We all love them. You can see I run 2 gyres on my big tank. I love the gyres. They do so great. Puts the water movement right at the top of the tank where I get the flow. But this kind of pump isn't perfect for everybody. If you want an anemone tank, most of us are going to want something like a closed loop. Because if you try running something like this, you got to put those filters on there. They get clogged easy. It's just not anybody's favorite way to do it. So closed loop is a really old school way to do it. And in fact, when I started keeping reefs, the best of the best tanks use closed loop for water circulation. So what's closed loop? So basically, you've got your water coming in your return, and usually they'll have a separate inlet drilled, but they can come in multiple different ways. So your water is going to come in your return. You're going to have a hose hooked to that, feeding down to a big old school pump. These days, most people are using DC. We'll talk about why I prefer AC later. But that's, so you run it to an old school AC pump, and then you run the water lines out. Now, we all want that water flow to move. So in the old days, we'd use these sea swirls. Sea swirls are cool. This has a power cord to it. It uses very little power. The water would come in here, and then it jets out here. And basically, with the power, this just slowly turns and sprays the water all over the tank. These were not cheap. I bought this one used when Poseidon's went out of business, but these things were like $200 or $300 a piece. They were expensive. Like only the best of the best tanks had these. You get one of these, you'd hook it to a big Milwaukee pump or something like that, and it would just blast water everywhere. But if you were to run an anemone tank these days, I would, if I was personally setting it up, this is the way I would do it. Big Milwaukee, ran a couple of these each corner, maybe even a third one in the middle, just to get that random flow going everywhere. And it is an ideal product for that. Low energy use, never going to break. You put it to a Milwaukee pump, something like that. They're bulletproof. Like bulletproof, in my opinion, is worth so much. You'll see a lot of these old school technologies. What I really love about them is that they don't break. I love my gyres. I just talked about how much I love my gyres. If there's a downside to the gyres, it's, you know, after they run for a little bit, they slow down, they get the buildup, and then you got to clean them. And then as soon as you clean them, you got tons of flow coming out again. Way more than the coral's accustomed to. So then you're lowering the flow down. Then as they clog up, you're raising the flow back up. And DC stuff has never, in my opinion, been as reliable longevity-wise as old school AC stuff. So that's been another issue. And then the gyres, they got those little rubber grommets that hold the fan blades on. Supposedly, those are fixed these days. But reliability-wise, this paired with an Iwaki with the Japanese motor, nothing beats it. Like if I was a service company I was setting up, this is what I would do because it's just not going to break. I'm just not going to worry about it. And honestly, I don't care so much about the controllability of the flow as I do about reliability. To me, that's the most important part. All right. So Reefer 420, I use a UV skimmer or UV 120 skimmer. So those UV sterilizers are really good. They have kind of gone away. They serve a lot of benefits though. If you have bacterial blooms, they're great for that. If you use a slow dwell time, they can even help you with like ick, marine velvet. People have good luck with them with dinoflagellates. Kind of an older technology, but still has a lot of uses on a modern tank. So, but the only thing is to run something like this, you need a really big setup, and they're really expensive. All right, Jacqueline, look, I love your aquarium. Thank you so much. This is my pride and joy. This is what I do. So that's why we're spending my 39th birthday talking about old school aquarium gear. Yeah, sorry I didn't plan the lighting better, but it's probably better. You want to see the tank anyways. It's funny because I am way underexposed. Tank's way overexposed. I'm winning. I'm doing great. All right. Let's go on to another product. Since we're talking about water flow, let's talk about those old school pumps. So the big Iwaki pumps. Not really a big deal anymore. Most people aren't running them in their tank, but let's talk about what they are first. They're your externally mounted water pumps. They are not an internal, they're AC, but the reason they're awesome is they give really high head pressures. And that's useful if you're like me and you try to pump water from the basement to the main floor. That is a huge use. They're also great if you like closed loops. Well, if you want to run a closed loop, being able to have a lot of pressure is great because a lot of pressure means you're going to get a lot of flow. It doesn't matter how much flow you get. If it's at a low pressure, you can't push it through the hose. So those old school Iwaki pumps are fantastic. So let's kind of compare one to a DC pump just for giggles. So first, depending on the pump you compare it to, prices are kind of equal, like a really big high-end Iwaki is kind of like $300-400. Compare that to your better DC pumps, they're kind of in that range. Flow-wise, if you look at the actual flow, you might be surprised. A lot of the DC pumps will show numbers that'll be higher. Once you put the head pressure into the equation and put it into real use, I would be surprised how many DC pumps anywhere near that price range can compete. I mean, short of going like stupid expensive, like Abyss stuff, like they are the way to go. But what's better about them is they don't break. They're mag drive, but they're well made. They're heavy casings and they have tons of torque, tons of power, tons of starting. They're easy to clean and they don't leak. They're mounted externally, so the heat isn't put into your water like it would be on a DC power pump. Now, the good news is for DC, they use a lot less energy. And that's the big thing you gain, right? So first, if you go DC, you're going to use less energy and you can put a bigger sump in. Of course, you're going to need that bigger sump because you have to put the pump in the sump where your old school high pressure pumps are mounted externally. Personally, for a big tank, I still swear by old school external pumps. And like I was saying, if I was to do something like closed loop all day long, I don't care about controllability if I have to sacrifice reliability. Reliability is so important to me. You know, I don't set up a tank for a year or two. My tanks go on for a long time. I've had some sort of tank sitting here for 9 years now. And basically, this same tank has been here for 7 years, I think. So yeah, 7-year-old tank behind me. In fact, that blue tang right there that I just scared off, he's in my very first Mile High Reefers video. That's how long I keep my stuff. I keep all my stuff and it's gotta last. So, you know, a $300-400 pump may sound expensive, but if you only have to buy it once, that's a great deal. Now, when we're talking about the external pumps, I did try the reflow stuff and I had problems with reflow. All right, reflow has a couple of issues. First, the motors. They do kind of go bad over time. You got to replace some parts. Mine was sent into a warranty. It all kind of got fixed. It was annoying. I could have maybe fixed some of that by going to a ball door motor, which I wish I did. If you're going to buy a reflow pump, get the ball door. The ball doors are big industrial pumps. This is what you see in a factory. Like I personally work in a factory. We got ball door pumps everywhere. Like stuff that they want to run and last. That's the stuff they use the big ball doors on. The downside to the reflow is the way that the seals are designed on the pump housing is they leak over time. So either you need to put a PM standard in place so that you're replacing those seals out, which is kind of a pain, or you risk it leaking, which is where the Iwaki's come in handy because they just don't leak. They're designed not to leak. They're designed not to fail. In fact, I've worked with them on an industrial level, and I've dealt with personally with many pumps that have been installed on systems for 10 plus years. And that sort of reliability is more important to me than just about anything. So I get the high head pressures, I get insane reliability, and it's never going to leak. The heat's outside the sump. They are a win in my world. They're not great for smaller tanks, but those of you doing big tanks, those old school pumps, they still have a place. They're great for so many reasons. All right, Ashley Spice, talking about old school. What about under gravel filters? When I started, that's all there was. Okay, under gravel's a very old school way to do things. For reefing, I think it ended up being more of a nitrate factory than anything. I think his name's Jolbert, talks in depth about this on some of the old MACNA videos. But that's kind of how he got started, is using that under gravel stuff. And he is kind of the one who got away from it because, you know, these tanks would start up okay, but then they'd start getting lots of nutrient issues and stuff like that. And he's kind of the one, I believe, who started some of the Berlin method stuff and the algae reactors. Like, he is the old school guy who started doing this for the European aquariums. And I really am not doing him enough justice. He's like amazing in everything he did. But yeah, he popularized a lot of this, and he's a big part of the reason we got away from under gravel. They were great for freshwater, and you'll still see some, but really you're sucking all of the nutrients down to the sand bed, and then it's hopefully having that whole nitrate cycle happening. But for a reef system, it just became this nitrate sink in your sand bed, which nobody wanted. So we got rid of those years ago. I don't know anybody who's even thinking about running them these days. And I agree. I personally wouldn't. And in fact, so few people run them. I don't even know exactly what the problem was, but it did become a nitrate factory, which is pretty crazy. I live by Milwaukee. 420 reefer. Milwaukee. It sounds great. All right. Happy birthday from Germany. Thank you so much. All right. Happy birthday from Sri Lanka. That is so cool, man. Oh, man, I wish I could go dive there and see your wild purple tanks. All right. Sunny Gould. Man, that video on the bacteria, one of the most important reefing videos ever. I am honored that Ken hit me up to do that video. This is purple non-sulfur bacteria is a product that I have personally been looking for a long time. I want to say it was like 2016, 17. There was a Reef Builders article that started talking about how corals were eating bacteria as a food source, which was crazy. I had no idea that they were even doing that. So that's when I got big on the Benepads because it has bacteria in the food. But, you know, when Ken's telling me he's got a live bacterial food that I can just dump in my tank. Oh, and by the way, it can denitrify. Oh my God. It denitrifies. It can act as an aquarium starter. It has all of these almost magical properties. It seemed too good to be true. But the amazing part is now that I'm feeding it to the tank, the corals, they're opening up, they're getting fat, healthy, doing good. Like, it's hard for me to really say that everything I'm seeing is down to the bacteria. When I started feeding the bacteria, it's right after I just dumped like 60 or 80 gallons of fresh water to this tank, and it basically crashed. It wasn't bad, but it was in a bad way. So for me to say that it is insane because of the recovery, it's hard to know how much of it would have recovered anyways. But so far, I'm really impressed. The other weird thing that's going on is in the 24 gallon, my dino's going away. It's not gone. I'm not willing to say it's a dino cure, but it's definitely a correlation. Like, I feed the bacteria to that like I feed coral food now. That's what I'm doing to this tank. I'm broadcast feeding it like I do coral food. I honestly think in 5 years, non-sulfur purple bacteria is going to be everywhere. It's going to be the food that every hobbyist is feeding. It's crazy cool. And if it lives up to 50% of its promises, this stuff is a game changer. I love it. I'm so excited by this bacteria. I am currently trying to get a Dendronepthia to test it on. So hopefully we can get one. All right. Happy birthday from Czech. So cool to hear from the Czech Republic. Okay. Where's the Flamingi? He is hanging out right over there. Big, fat, and happy, is always doing great. Happy birthday. By the way, tap water was another thing way back in the day. Okay, tap water. Let's talk about that. Honestly, I use RO in this tank, but I probably don't have to. In fact, when I started keeping my tanks, that's all I ever used was tap water. I put a dechlorinator in, call it good. I did that, I don't know, until 2013, 2014, something like that. I'm in a really good area for water. I'm right along the Colorado Rockies. Our water comes from the Colorado Rockies. So we have incredibly good water along the Front Range in Colorado. So I think TDS out of the tap where I'm from is about 40. That's pretty good. We don't have any chloramines. At least we didn't. Hopefully we don't. I'm real sad. Our town is going to start taking groundwater from Wyoming as a water source. I'm not sad because they're doing that. I'm sad because I'm afraid that groundwater is going to give me this high TDS garbage water after being spoiled by this amazing mountain water that we've had for so long. So I hope my local town does a great job at managing this because we've always had amazing water. I'm just real afraid that our drinking water is going to go to crap. But for most of us along the Front Range and in certain parts of the world, our water has been so good that, yeah, we'd run big tanks like this without problems. So RO was never really a thing for us. And you know what? I know a lot of local stores that don't run RO, bit of carbon to get the chlorine out. That's it. Local stores to the day in Colorado. It's fantastic. All right. Happy birthday from New Jersey. Hopefully you get someone got you a vanity light for your birthday. Oh man. So not only do I have the light, it's set up over there. I forgot to put a battery in it. Yeah, I'm a professional YouTuber, as you guys can tell. I don't know why I forgot my light. I know why. It's because it's sitting right there and I can't see the battery on the back. I even remembered, oh yeah, I should, because when I set this live stream up, I can't see exactly what the picture is going to look like. So then I just forgot to set it up. And rather than leave you guys mid live stream, I just figured we'll go a little darker and you guys can look at the tank. It's prettier than I am anyways. All right. All right. Do you know, have you got any idea from which exporter Aquametic Live got Sri Lankan marine fish or inverts from? I do not know which exporter it was from. They never did fish, and I would love to know. I'm all about the inverts and stuff. As far as I know, I don't know if they got anything from Sri Lanka because they didn't do fish. So if they did, it would have been the inverts, but I personally wouldn't know which one. And even if I did, I hate to say it, I wouldn't be allowed to say. No, it really is a big deal. Like, it's like industry secrets. People don't want it out there who their suppliers are and stuff like that. It kind of sucks, but those guys were a fantastic company. I loved working there. And yeah, I want to get back into the coral game again. There may be something happening on that too. Just wait and see. All right. Benjamin Kaufman, do you still have 5 clownfish? Yes. So there are 4-ish living in this area. And if you look right up, there's my 5th. I used to have a giant Monty colony right there until the rescape, and he lived in that. Well, after that rescape, he doesn't play well with these guys here. He's the little one. And so now he's stressed out. He lives on the other side of the tank. So they got to figure out their pecking order again. So unintended consequence from the rescape. But yeah, all 5 are there. All right. Happy birthday from Tennessee. Hello, Tennessee. It's such a gorgeous state out there. I love it. All right. All right. Pro to professional. This is better. BRS is starting to get a little polished. Okay, I love what BRS does. The polished stuff is good. They do a great job. I want to be a pro someday. I mean, I loved doing the wholesale stuff. It really was a dream job for me. That's where I want to be. So, maybe someday I can figure something out there. I've got some ideas. I've got plans. We'll see whatever actually works out. As far as the videos go, it's kind of a balancing act, right? Like, you want to come off as being knowledgeable and knowing your stuff and, getting the information out there. At the same time, it's hard to do that without actually saying what you need to say. So, they're a big company. I think they've probably moved more that direction. And I kind of see why. If you watch the old ones, Ryan's a little slower in his speaking. It's less exciting. But what I love most about BRS is they do so many videos that I swear don't help their business. Like when they go out there and tell us that, you probably don't have to upgrade your T5s every year because obviously people like me, well, yeah, the common wisdom is every year you got to buy new T5 bowls. So them putting a video up saying 1.5 years is fine, 2 years is fine, you're not losing that much par, that probably cost them money. So somebody like me, I so appreciate that because it really is the right thing to tell people. And actually, maybe it was good for business because it makes me want to run my T5s more. It brings that cost down. But yeah, BRS, cool company. I love what those guys have done. Back then, there were also did not run a reef tank with corals from day one. It was all about cycling a reef. Okay, so back in the day, that is true. You'd put your tank together, you go buy that live rock, you go to the store, pick it out, put it in your tank, then it'd sit for 6 weeks. It was the longest 6 weeks ever. No starter bacteria, no nothing. You just put the live rock in the tank and you waited. Honestly, it makes sense. And I think a lot of new reefs would be more successful if we would just go back to throwing live rock in a tank and letting it wait. It just makes so much sense. Bacteria colonies, they got to grow, they got to populate. All of this stuff has to happen, and it just takes time. I think one of the mistakes a lot of us make early on is we rush it. We really do. All right, next one. How about seawater in your tank? What source do you have? We have the San Diego Birch Aquarium. They give it for free, so much as you need it. Wow, okay, so you guys are super lucky. I know there is seawater available. I know there's seawater available on the West Coast, California, Los Angeles area. I'm in Colorado. We have to make all of our own. So we're getting box stalls. I'm old school. I still use reef crystals. It's just always worked. Like from almost day one, I ran reef crystals. It's always worked. It's always done well. I've never had any problems at all. So why not? Let's just stick with it. And I've heard good and bad about the seawater that's actual filtered seawater, but if it's good enough for the Birch Aquarium, I bet it's good enough for my tank. Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome. I'd be real interested in that. All right. Dino Fernando, are you able to give me advice on DIY overflow box dimensions? I am not. I'm going to tell you to research the crap out of that. I've never actually built my own. There are great ghost overflows available to you, which might be a good way to go. The big thing with your overflow, right, is just figuring out the size of the pipe you need to get the drainage you want, right? So you get a big enough pipe to get the drainage, and then your overflow just has to go around it. And then, of course, your height placement is going to determine your water level. And that's the hardest part. Depending on the size of the tank, I like 2 overflows, mainly just for redundancy purposes. Even if one overflow is just an overflow for the overflow, right? If you want to do more like the bean style, where one's a siphon and then the other one's just an extra overflow, that's fine. I just personally like 2 for redundancy, at least on a big tank. But I would personally research the crap out of that one, but really bigger pipe size and then just go around the pipe. That's the biggest part that you've got to worry about. All right. Still don't know it. Old school set a new tank up yesterday, and now we'll wait a month. In my opinion, that's the way to go. You've got a starter bacteria, not going to hurt anything. But honestly, take it slow when you start. Super easy way to go. So I've got one more old school technology that I use to this day, and I swear by it. And if you've got more, keep putting them in the live chat. This is a lot of fun. So the biggest one that I feel like that we've gotten away from and maybe shouldn't have is metal halide lighting. They are incredible. So we're talking about bulbs that look like incandescent bulbs, but you can get them in 10K, 15K, 20K to kind of mask the color spectrum you want. In fact, that's what you're looking at behind me right now. So I've got 5 Kessels on this tank, 4 tubes of T5s, and 2 250-watt metal halides. The metal halides are amazing because it's the closest thing at this point I feel like we can get to the sun. You've got a ton of power, and more importantly, though, I feel like the color spread is better. You've got a coating on there. It's 20K, but when you go look at this light, it's not like just turn the blues on. What we consider blue now with LEDs is not what we used to consider blue. A 20K bulb these days, I think most people would say is white light for a reef. Like the color spectrum is just so well blended. You can just plug them in, put a coral under it, and they just thrive. There's just something magical about it. Or maybe it's just that I'm old and I have this magical feeling of just putting the light under this almost artificial sun that I just can't get out of LEDs. For some reason, they just don't work or feel the same. There's just something about that look. I run these for like 4 or 5 hours a day. It's more of a supplemental light. They're hot. Bulbs are expensive. But there's just this look to them that I can't reproduce. The coral health is just better in my opinion. Like, I do not want to go away from metal halides. In fact, I so don't want to go away from metal halides that I probably have a 15 or 20 year supply of bulbs. I literally have like 30 or 40 metal halide bulbs laying around. They are awesome. So metal halides. It's an old school light that very few people are going to use. They're expensive. You can't tune them. You get to pick your bulb color, and that's it. And yet, when I look at my tank, I do not want them gone. I love them. In fact, I'd get rid of the LED. No, I probably wouldn't. I'd get rid of the T5s before I got rid of the halides. But man, I love those halides. They are so sweet. Is there such thing as a LED halide? I don't think so. No, there's a lot of lights that have tried to match them, and even like I think like Ecotech and stuff, they'll have like 20K settings so they can kind of approximate them, but they're very different technologies. An LED is a real peaky in its colors, and they use lots of different LEDs and mix the color spectrums together to kind of get this, where the halide, it's all mixed into one, and it's coating, and I don't know exactly how they did, to be honest, but it's magical, and it worked for so long, so well. It's really cool. I mean, it's just one of those technologies that it's probably because I'm old and have been doing this for too long, but I am sold on them. All right. I use metal halides, but for a different purpose. You must be in Colorado. I have a feeling I know your purpose. That's awesome. All right. I still do it old school. Oh, I read that wrong. Okay, cool. Yes, exactly. Height of the overflow from the tip of the tank. No teeth. Yeah, see, that's going to be awesome. Yeah, the teeth are confusing. You don't really need them. Cool, guys. Well, I'm 39 today. It's been an old school episode. We talked about some old school problems. And I mean, honestly, I even have an old school tank, right? Like, I got the halides. I've got huge leathers. Like, you just don't see these in most people's tanks these days. Yeah, it's just the way I run a tank. I love LPS. I love big leathers. I love big corals. I love big clams. I'm just not the guy who's trying to dial his lights in to get his acros to turn a certain color. It's just not my thing. I like a wall tank, old school way of aquascaping, but it's what I like. So, you know, the wall. Why is the wall tank so cool? It's because it's a big, flat aquascape that goes from floor to ceiling, and it allows you to pack as much coral as possible in it. It's old school, but the reason we do it is because even though it's the old way to do it, it gets the most possible coral in the tank. And if you're like me, that's the goal. I love old school corals. I love old school fish. Like, it's just the way I am. I'm so much more interested in like the newest, coolest acanthophilia that I can find at a store than I am in the weird colored acro or zoa or something like that. Yes, they're cool, but these one-off LPS and stuff like that, those are the ones that totally blow me away. And yeah, they're not the kind of stuff that gets propagated. They're not the kind of stuff that gets popular, but it's what I personally like. And that's why my tank is the way it is. Part of it's because I'm old, but part of it I think is because, you know, I think in modern times we miss a lot of these really insane corals. It's just, they don't get popularized because there's one. That's it. There's one. So yeah, they're not going to be popular. There's only one. All right. All right. Never had better water clarity than with Ozone. Had it on my first reef 13 plus years ago, but not used it in the last 8 years, thinking old school, got to get this one. Okay. Again, so I ran Ozone for a while. My skimmer has the injector. Yeah, the old Aqua C injection style. Yeah, it's fully set up for Ozone. I ran that for a while instead of carbon. I didn't see a ton of difference. It was the same kind of time that my tank was crashing. I'm not blaming Ozone for the tank crashing, but I did pull it so I could go back to carbon GFO, the old way I was doing things. Yeah, it seems like when I try new things, sometimes it goes great, other times not so well. And to be clear, none of what I was trying there, I'm relating to Ozone. Ozone is a cool product. It has some safety issues because ozone is dangerous to human health, so you need to make sure you get it in the water and it's not escaping into the room and stuff like that. But it's a real water treatment. It's not even a chemical, I guess, but yeah, they use it in real water treatment facilities. It's great stuff. Yeah, maybe I should try it again someday. Okay. Why do you think an LFS with 70 parts per million nitrate and 2-phosphate can have corals growing great, while a home reef would bomb out at those levels? I'm not sure who you're talking about here. I would be real worried about the 70 parts per million nitrates. My guess is they've got a crazy good cleanup crew. But yeah, with the 70 parts per million, 2-phosphate, I would expect it to explode in algae. But, you know, Richard Ross ran his phosphates at like 3, I think. Not 0.3, but 3. And his tank looked amazing. So there's some weird stuff that has to happen, right? So for algae to grow, we need phosphate, nitrates, and light. If you take away any of those 3 legs, it can't grow. But we're also using that. We're also going to start eating the algae if we have grazers like tangs and shrimps and all that kind of stuff. But to give you a real short answer, I'm not sure how they're getting away with the 70 parts per million, 2 phosphates. Yeah, because 70 is a lot. Like people who are dosing nitrates, I think they're kind of in that 5-10 range, and that's running high. 70 is like tank blowing up with algae numbers usually. So that's weird. All right. Rhode Island here, legal and free. Fantastic. I've been trying to study the effects of CBDA on corals that's struggling and trying to see if they can be used to help rebuild tissue. Okay, this is a way cool. So CBD is a plant extract from hemp and stuff like that. It's grown all over. It should be federally legal these days. And I would love to know the results because people are claiming huge results for humans. I mean, and I did even hear once that they were looking at putting it in a fish food. Yeah, let me know what you find out with that because I'm real interested to know. Yo, what's cracking? Not sure. Hopefully it's not a mic or something. Hello from the UK. You have lost some weight, my friend. I love your tank. Okay. This has been coming up a lot lately. So here's the deal. A year ago, almost to the day, we're off by about a week or 2, I quit drinking alcohol. completely. I'm done. And then I was going to start eating better, you know, getting myself in shape, but the whole COVID thing hit. Now that COVID's down and I can actually go to the store and buy food, I've been buying healthy foods. I don't know how many of you know, but I'm actually a vegetarian. I've been trying to work much more towards like a fully plant-based diet, even more on the raw side than I was. And I am down almost 60 pounds. I was 220 pounds and I weighed in the other day at 163. So I am super excited about that. I'm working so hard to get my health back in line. And it's turning out like what it took was exactly the most simple thing in the world, right? I had to quit making bad decisions. So while alcohol, a drink or two is not going to hurt you, if you come home from work and drink a 4-pack or a 6-pack or whatever, and you do that for 30 years, you end up being a fat guy like I was. If you don't eat healthy, you end up being a fat guy like I was. So smart decisions are working out for me. I'm getting thin. I'm getting healthy. I'm going to be that's my goal. I mean, I look better. I feel better. It's just better. I love it. All right. Let's see. My FOSS been creeping up, way up. Marine Pure blocks getting old. Mine is 4 years old with coralline growing on it. I'm about to take it out and rinse it. Is this normal? Yeah, it would make sense that I've never kept a Marine Pure block that long, but it would make sense that over time that it's going to get full of algae and detritus and stuff like that. So it kind of makes sense. I would say that's completely normal. I mean, anytime you have a real porous area for stuff to go in and out of, that would happen. I recently added a Marine Pure block to my tank. It's in the sump downstairs. And when I actually did it, I put some of the purple non-sulfur bacteria, the stuff you saw in Ken's video. That stuff I just poured right through the block to help inoculate the block. So hopefully that purple non-sulfur bacteria is growing in there and doing all of that. So yeah. So far I'm loving the Marine Pure blocks. I've been trying a few things out with them as well, but nowhere near 4 years of experience on them. All right. All right. How do you clean your front glass? Most of the time, I use my flipper magnet. I've been using this magnet for like 4 or 5 years now. They sent me one to test years ago. I've been using the same one ever since. I don't know what's happened. I feel like they've changed the blades on the scraper, like maybe for safety reasons or something. They're not as sharp as they used to be, and they just don't scrape as well. So now I buy new blades, like, and even after buying a new blade, they don't scrape as well. So I do have a little hand scraper I'll go in there with every month or two and get the really thick stuff. You can see kind of like down here. I need to do that again, get in there, get it cleaned again. But that's how I do it. I'd really like to know what happened with these scrapers, because the blades, they just don't feel like they're as good as they were. So fish nerds, hello. Tank looks amazing. All right. All right. I did that 11 years ago, quit alcohol, no red meat. Yeah, it's been hard. But you know, it's one of those things where like I go to a restaurant now and it'd be real nice to have a beer, but I feel so much better. I look better. Like my clothes, I'm at the point where I need to buy new clothes. They're all too big for me. Like I don't want to go back to that. All right. And then how was the red, that sulfur bacteria working out? So far, so good. We talked about it earlier, but so far I am so impressed with it. The corals, they fully open up like they're feeding. So they must be feeding off of it. So it's a coral food. It seems to be a denitrifier. The nano tanks looking awesome, except for the corals I took out for the rescape over here. And the dino's going away. So I'm not at the point where I'm ready to determine between causation, correlation, saying that one is great for so many reasons. It kind of comes down to this diet stuff that we've been talking about, right? Like it has taken a year for me to see the full effects of clean living, like no alcohol, no crappy foods, that kind of stuff. and the benefits are huge. I have a feeling that's what my tanks are going to see, right? We give them a year of clean living. We give them the nutrition they need, the light they need, the water chemistry we need. We just make good choices for these tanks, give them what they need. I bet a year from now, I'm pulling coral like weeds out of here. At least that's what we hope for. So, all right. I haven't touched a drop of the Devil's Nectar since 2006. Yeah, I'm not against it for so many reasons. I'm not going to say somebody shouldn't, but wow, it has made a huge difference in my own personal life and health. All right. Now I buy vodka and dose it to the tank. Yeah, you can use vodka for carbon dosing. It'd be hilarious because, yeah, I probably would go to a liquor store now just to get vodka to give to my aquarium. That'd be great. All right. Hey, T5s are still the best. T5s are amazing. They give you that full spectrum and everything. So we're talking about old school products right now, but I'm really thinking about taking my T5s off. And here's why. Ooh, look at all that. Oh, you guys can't see crap. It's all blown out. Okay, anyways. I was hoping you guys could see it, but, you know, I got 4 tubes of T5s. They take up a fair bit of room. So I'm thinking about maybe taking at least 2 of them off, maybe all 4, and then going to the Nico bars. They're a light bar that was developed by one of our locals up in Denver, but the color coming off of these is unbelievable. Like, I feel like I've seen corals under about every light out there. Radio and Kessel, doesn't matter. I feel like I've seen them all. These are different. You put the coral over it and they pop. I don't know what kind of weird witchcraft he did with his lighting tuning, if he did something with the near violets or what. But the pop coming off of these is blowing me away. And like, this isn't me advertising it, because it's not like he's sending me one or giving me one or anything like that. I'm just so impressed by what I've seen just checking these out with some of my locals. Like, I think I need to get some because the color pop is crazy. All right. I lost another person inside you. Yeah, you really could have about a year ago. All right. Nice. I'm going to try out sulfur bacteria. Yes, I'm sold on that. I think, oh man, they are doing such a good job with that product. Dr. Tim's Waste Away had Dino 3 times. Now it's Bullocks gave it time to work every time. Cool. So I will try that Dr. Tim's, but now that I'm doing this purple non-sulfur, maybe I don't have to. So we'll see how it goes. All right. And then Ben Russell, congrats on your weight loss. My birthday is tomorrow. Would love to get a frag from your tank. All right, Ben Russell, tomorrow's your birthday. If you're local to Colorado, I will give you a frag. Hit me up on Facebook, message me. Absolutely, I can donate some frags. That's something a lot of people are asking me for, so let me figure out how to ship frags, and we'll get some frags out to people. All right, guys. Well, we're getting close to about an hour. It's my birthday. I'm going to go do some fun stuff. So thank you guys for watching, and thanks for this trip down memory lane as we talk about some old school aquarium gear. All right, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.